to do is just kind of break down, go through each point. But so you'll notice that in this schemata, I'm only talking about the Zhang organs. But what about the Fu organs? We've got all kinds of Fu organs in there. We've got the stomach at T12. We've got the gallbladder at T10. Do you have any others? Quick scan through. No. But what about Fu organs? So as far as I can understand, the Fu organs actually, the back shoe points of the Fu organs actually are sort of pushed out by the energetics of the yin organs. The yin organs are actually the ruling organs for the back shoe point system. And acupuncture practice bears that out, right? If you look at the history of how people have used the back shoe points, they've tended to use them a lot for the Zhang organs. You know, it's very common to needle bladder 13, 15, 18, 20, 23, and so on, and to have a focus on working on the Zhang organs. And of course, that's borne out from chapter 55 of the Su Wen, where it says that when the disease energy is really grabbing a hold of and chewing up the Zhang organ, then you treat the Zhang organ. But when the disease energy is kind of ferociously approaching the Zhang organ, you treat the back shoe points. Right? So there's this sense that to the back shoe point system, the most central energies, and therefore the most central points, are the Zhang organ points. But what about the Fu organ points? So the Fu organs, in a sense, I think get sort of put in where they can, kind of thing. Now, my understanding about, say, for example, the triple burner is that the bladder 43, as I mentioned yesterday, which is at the level of T4, let's just write it in there, is actually a triple burner zone. That's bladder 43, because it relates so much to membranes, to the Huang and to the Gao, and of course it's called Gao Huang Shu, Shu point of the Gao Huang. And the Gao Huang are these, you know, the Gao Huang specifically is the membrane above the diaphragm, below the heart. It's this kind of place where when disease energy penetrates, you do not survive, is the concept of the Gao Huang in the original Chinese thinking. But my understanding of that whole Gao Huang area is that it's actually somewhat triple burner related, because the yang aspects of the Zhang organs tend to get pushed above, below, and out to the side, right? So similarly, we see the heart reflected at bladder 15, but the entire scapula reflects the small intestine, right? We've got small intestine 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This whole small intestine is operating. If this is somebody's spine and there's the T5, the whole small intestine, the associated Fu organ, is kind of operating out on the wings, out on the scapulae, right? In addition to any, you know, you might also think about, well, what about bladder 27 down on the sacrum, that, you know, which I believe is connected to the small intestine because it's a fire, it's fire-related vertebra. And then what about the large intestine? Well, that's definitely interesting. I mean, of course, we see, you know, L4 we talked about yesterday, bladder 25 connected to the large intestine. But because the large intestine is Zhang Fu, yin yang, interior, exteriorly related to the lung, we should see some evidence of the activity of large intestine also around here. And if you think about large intestine channel, right, the channel of large intestine is more intimately connected with air than it is with intestinal function. And the channel of the large intestine is going up to your sinus cavities. And so in a lot of these zones around the Zhang point of bladder 13, we see a lot of stuff having to do with wind invasion and air. So you've got bladder 12 right here, which is the wind gate. It is Fengmen, isn't it? Bladder 12, yeah. Wind gate, having to do with wind invasion. We see it even up around, you know, further up around bladder 11 and so on. When we come down to the level of bladder 18 and the liver, then we see the gallbladders popped right in there underneath around T10. And so here at bladder 19, we've got gallbladder just kind of tucked in underneath liver, which is nice. I would also argue that because it's the Fu organ, it actually constellates around the Zhang organ. So you could actually look for gallbladder reflexes below T9, above T9, and to the side of T9. That's just my way of thinking about it. Similarly, we've got the Zhang organ for the spleen and the earth energy at T11, and then right underneath it at T12, we've got bladder 21. We've got the stomach, point there. We've got the stomach shoe point there. And I would argue again that, you want to palpate around. You want to look around. It could be around, because my understanding is that the Fu organ energetics constellate around the Zhang organ energetics on the spine. Sometimes they are placed in the system, sometimes they're not. But that's just how I see it. What about T8? T8's kind of interesting, isn't it? This is just kind of a mess, but this maybe makes a little bit better sense of it. So if you look at this chart that I gave you, yeah, we've got T8 right in there. And the interesting thing about, as I'm sure all acupuncturists have remarked on, when you look at T8, you wonder, why didn't they put an acupuncture point there? What was the problem? What was going on? I'm going to suggest that, again, that's a reflection of this gap energy, right? Coming right in. I put it in as 5, 6, and 7. That's a mistake. I should have put it in as 6, 7, and 8. Excuse me. That the fact that the Chinese don't even put a point there, which doesn't make any sense. They knew that T8 existed. People have told me, when I was in acupuncture school, I would say, well, why isn't there a back shoe point at T8? Why is there this big gap there? And they would say, well, oh, they didn't count it. Well, that's not true. We know they counted it, because if you look at the Taoist tradition of counting the vertebrae, they counted 25 vertebrae, right? That was 1 vertebra for the tailbone and the sacrum, because it's one unified bone, actually. And then it was 5 for the lumbar and 12 for the thoracic and 7 for the neck, and that makes 25. And they counted the 25 because it was an ascension from the winter solstice at the first vertebra up to the summer solstice right here, this gap zone, right around T6, T7. And then each vertebra matched a different hexagram, moving from the summer solstice back towards the yin, up to the winter solstice again at the top of the neck, right? So they outlined specific hexagrams that show each of those shifts. So you know they were counting T8, but yet in the acupuncture system we don't have a point there at T8. Well, remember this area, Gao Huang, right? It's defined very early in Chinese medicine as the subject of a lot of sort of woo-woo and fun sort of mythological ideas, like, oh, the doctor takes the pulses and says, oh, the disease has penetrated the Gao Huang. I'll send this patient to my enemy. Because they're going to die in a week, and I don't want to have to deal with it. So we've got this kind of whole idea of this area that's here, this kind of area that you've got to be kind of careful of. Maybe you don't want to stick a needle deep into it, and maybe it's kind of connected a little bit to something that's where we don't want a needle, right? If you've got this highest spiritual energy, even higher than your regular heart, the right heart energy coming down, and landing next to your heart. There's this idea in Chinese medicine for a long time that you don't needle the heart channel, right? You don't needle the acupuncture channel of the heart. So we have this whole kind of confusion because the Neijing defines the heart channel, but then kind of implies that it has no transport points for you to needle. It actually specifically states that in one passage. It says, oh, the transport points for the heart channel, well, that's why we have a pericardium channel, so you can not mess up somebody's heart. Similarly, we've got this kind of weird gap right here, where there is no acupuncture point, therefore you don't needle, is interesting to me. Now when modern Chinese acupuncturists looked at the zone of T8, started palpating around T8, they decided that this is the pancreas shoe, especially, of course, on the left. And in my clinical practice, I really believe that to be quite accurate. That in a minute, I'm going to just do palpation of the thoracic and lumbar spine, just to kind of show you how I like to do it. And when I find stuff around T8 on the left, I am going to be thinking about liver, and I'm going to be thinking about pancreas. Right? Now, energetically, when you tune into the organs, I was very fortunate in my first 10 years of studying Chinese medicine. My first teacher had a friend whose name was Shantan Diraj, and he came and lived with us for at least a year. Shantan Diraj was an amazing man. He was a Hell's Angel for a long time, and a serious alcoholic. And then he got liver cirrhosis and liver cancer, and they told him he was going to die very soon. I mean, this wasn't a man who went to doctors. He was a Hell's Angel. He was just like intense. He told me that when he was growing up, he had 14 different fathers. So you can imagine the kind of intensity that he had to deal with. And so he believed that he was going to die, and he was on his motorbike, and he was riding out in the desert, and he passed an entrance to a Tibetan Buddhist center. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to die. May as well figure out what this is about." Turned his bike into this Tibetan Buddhist center. He met some Tibetan master who immediately put him into very intensive spiritual practice, and just kind of kept him there as the sort of kitchen boy and slave person, and just kept him working really hard. And he totally healed. His liver cancer went away, his body healed. And then he went to see Yogi Bhajan. And Yogi Bhajan just took one look at him and gave him 24 mudra system. And then he went to see a Chinese master, and he said, "Well, show me your hand stuff from the Indian guy." And then he gave him a 24 organ system. That was pretty interesting. And so Shantan Diraj taught us this 24 organ system that he sort of compiled from Chinese and Tibetan and South American sources. And in his 24 organ system, the energy of the liver passes across into the pancreas. And I believe there's a lot of truth to that. I think that in many ways, the anatomical pancreas can be seen as somewhat of an extension of the process of the liver. Because, in the liver, you've got the production of, glucagon, that's connected to that whole storage of converting things into stored sugars. And then in the pancreas, you've kind of got the almost like the opposite of that. You've got the release of insulin and so on. So I also see, if you think about the pancreas, you think about the exocrine pancreas and the endocrine pancreas, and they're very widely different functions, right? So the exocrine pancreas is producing digestive enzymes which break apart, split apart your food into its component elements so that your spleen, the lining of your small intestine, can absorb them. And so that exocrine pancreatic function looks pretty fiery. It's similar to what in Chinese medicine we would call the stomach fire, or the digestive fire, right? And in some ways, Chinese medicine has downplayed the emphasis that there used to be placed on the stomach fire as an important capacity and thing to think about. But that's essentially what the exocrine pancreas is. It's stomach fire energy. And the endocrine pancreas, which is that aspect of the pancreas that produces insulin, well, if you think about insulin, it's sending a message to every cell of your body via the cell membrane, that the cell membrane should open and receive nutrients, receive food, absorb glucose. So the endocrine pancreas has a feeding function. There's a cycle of the Shen that moves through the internal organs, which starts at the navel And at the navel, there's this point of the birth of pure, undifferentiated consciousness, a lot like a little baby, like a pure baby that doesn't have any impressions, any sanskaras and karmic impressions and so on. And then that energy drops down towards the sexual energy center, which is a fairly primitive level of consciousness, really, and the survival energy center. And then it moves to the right kidney. And of course, the right kidney is your will, your drive, your Ming Men. And then it moves from the right, and also the development of anger, right? And then it moves up through the liver. And in the liver, that whole sort of more primitive consciousness becomes, modulated by the needs of society and the needs for integrating of other sort of processes and emotions. And so as that Shen energy moves across, by the time it gets to the pancreas, it's representing the archetype of the masculine, like I would say the integrated masculine and the integrated feminine. And the exocrine pancreas looks like the masculine energy, that fiery energy that splits apart your food. And the endocrine pancreas looks like the feminine energy. It's this impulse of feeding. It's this impulse of nurturing. In fact, if you look at people with diabetes, you'll notice that very often they embody, whether they're men or women, they embody a sort of feminine type sense of nurturing others and feeding. Right? So obviously diabetes is connected to being overweight, it is connected to food, but it's also connected to the whole kind of nurturing, feeding aspect, which in some ways is a feminine impulse relative to, say, the pancreatic exocrine function of the enzymes that split apart the food. So I kind of went on a digression about the pancreas, because I was trying to illustrate this idea that the pancreas is sort of an extension of the Shen energy as it moves through the liver up into the pancreas. From the pancreas, it moves into the anatomical spleen. From the anatomical spleen, it moves into the heart. It's a spiral of Shen energy. That's why the anatomical spleen is associated with enthusiasm. And it's what we would call the spleen yang in Chinese medicine, right? It's that lifting up part of the spleen, and it's psychologically lifting up. And so associated with feelings of optimism, feelings that you can overcome obstacles, enthusiasm, and that kind of thing. Because it's actually the end point, almost end point, of a cycle of the Shen that spirals through the internal organs until finally it comes to the left heart and then the right heart, right? Starts at the navel, goes down, comes up through the right kidney, liver, duodenum, pancreas, spleen, heart, right heart. Anyway, that was a total digression, and I apologize for that. But I was just wanting to talk a little bit about the pancreas in terms of some sort of ideas about its energetics from a TCM point of view. Because in Chinese medicine, we don't really do it very much justice. We pretend it's not there. All right, so what I want to do is put somebody on a table and demonstrate palpation of the thoracic spine and also the lumbar spine, so that in a sort of 5-minute to 10-minute process, you can massage somebody, and you can also diagnose their entire organ system. It's actually a lot of fun. So, who would like to be a model? And my request is, and I apologize if you're not anatomically perfect, but just for these purposes, I want somebody who's anatomically fairly normal. In other words, if you know you have an extra vertebrae somewhere.